This abominable pile of turtle death is the largest collection of e-waste peripherals outside of an Acer packing facility. Probably. And what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to pit them head to head to see how they stack up against each other, and then we're going to put them on a tier list. But before we get into that, it's time for a video sponsor for today's video.
Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare, which is an online learning community which offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative people on topics like illustration, design, photography, video, and all that jazz. I would recommend checking out Unlocking Your Potential 5 Exercises to Build Creative Confidence by Emma Gannon, where she shows you how to feel better about your creativeness and not be embarrassed to show it to your parents and all of the internet. Skillshare Premium membership is also affordable at less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. If all of this sounds good to you, use the link in my description below to join Skillshare. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click on the link will get a free trial of premium membership so that you can explore your creativity. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring today's video.
Now, before we have a look at the first keyboard, just a quick disclaimer here. I am not a Reddit tier keyboard enthusiast, so in this video we're not going to hear descriptions like, I feel like the short pre-travel matched with a low force requirement for bottoming out the keystroke leads to a mushy feeling typing experience, similar to poking a fawn in the belly after it consumed exactly 370 milliliters of teat milk. But I'll still try and give you a solid indication of what the typing experience is like, what it sounds like, and the build quality and stuff like that. I'm going to start off by looking at the HP, Dell, Lenovo, and Acer keyboards because they're all pretty much the same. It's kind of like choosing your favorite shape of genital wart. Like, does it really matter? When it comes to the typing experience, they're all kind of same but different. Let me play you some sound clips so that you can get an indication of what each one sounds like. And yes, I do type like the keyboard owes me money. I don't know, typing on these keyboards makes you feel like an 80-year-old sending your credit card details to an online scammer, but you know, it's perfectly usable. Build quality-wise, they're all very flexy, terrible. They're not really designed to bear weight in a bridge or whatever, but I think they'll hold up well. I think all of these e-waste peripherals are well known for never ever dying, and that's why they make such good e-waste. Gaming-wise, I did use this, and one of the issues that I have with all of these, in fact, is the placement of the Windows key and the Alt here. Because of how far under your hand you have to go to hit Alt, you often end up hitting the Windows key, which, if you're mid-gunfight in an FPS game, that's not ideal. Other than that, yeah, they're fine. So with that, let's have a look at something a bit more interesting. We've got the MSI keyboard. Now, MSI, when it comes to their gaming pre-builds, they make a big song and dance about how good their peripherals are that they include with them. And, well, it shows with the keyboard already. There's still some flex, but the actual keycaps are way better, they're much higher profile. This does have RGB. As far as adjustability goes, it does have feet, but in the standard position, it's okay. When you bring the feet up, this is a way better keyboard than the other four, and I think it looks quite cool. It looks like a decent gaming keyboard. And then finally we have an iBuyPower keyboard, which is also all gamery branded like the MSI, which is basically a polar opposite to the 60-year-old accountant keyboards that we got with all of the other systems. There are a couple of things that I really like about the iBuyPower keyboard. The first one is the fact that it has a braided cable. It's not a very nice braided cable, but it is a braided cable that it comes with, which none of the other keyboards have. And then there is another thing that I like, and it's the fact that it's got dedicated media keys up here. They're not the most useful keys. There's an Internet Explorer key for some reason. And then the final thing is a volume wheel. And this is something that you don't get on keyboards often these days, which I'm sad about because I really like a good volume wheel. It also has RGB. I'll show it powered up, so it does have that going for it. The build quality is much worse than the MSI one. It's not as solid feeling, especially. It's like a noisy, clacky typing experience that you have on your... Oh yeah, the MSI is significantly better. Yeah, I think that's a good time to move over to the mice. One thing that you need to bear in mind while looking at these sets of peripherals, they all come from gaming branded pre-builts that cost around the same amount of money. Now we're gonna start off with the Dell mouse, which is just a mouse. There's not much to say about the shape of it. It does actually feel quite nice in the hand though. The clicks aren't too bad, and as far as I remember, it's got one of the better sensors. It's actually, it's very sensitive, but it doesn't step too much. I don't know how well you can see this, but some of the mice, like, they don't track accurately. So there's like jumps in the movement. So especially when you want to like make small movements, it's really difficult to like accurately pin down what's going on. Although the Dell one is okay, it's not too bad. Let's actually move over to the iBuyPower one. Of course, it has the very necessary RGB on it. It feels quite nice, like ergonomically, it's a decent mouse with a braided cable. It's the only one with one of these. Although, actually gaming with the iBuyPower one, it's not great. The sensor is very steppy and it does not feel very accurate, especially at range. I mean, I did just kill that guy. It's also got some macro keys on the side, so that's quite nice. One of the things that I really dislike about this mouse though is the middle button. The click on it doesn't work very well. So in Escape from Tarkov, you use it to free look and the button just doesn't activate the command very well. But other than that, it's basically like a gamer mouse ergonomic with a terrible e-waste sensor in it. Which actually, on that note, let's move over to the other gamer option, the MSI one. Now the MSI mouse does become gross instantly. Like the moment that you just look at it, it becomes disgusting. But this mouse is actually good. Even by decent gaming mice standards, it feels nice. And the biggest difference between it and the other mice is the sensor in it. Like, it's so much more smooth feeling. It actually feels accurate when shooting at range. It feels like you can actually hit targets, which I'm gonna miss every shot here to illustrate my point. Yeah, it feels so much better than the rest of them. Next, we have this abomination, which is the HP mouse. One of the biggest issues with it is just the shape of the mouse. Because it's so flat, it's really difficult to like grip and move around. Like, you can't naturally hold this mouse. It's also got like a sharp edge on the sides, so it's just so difficult to hold this mouse properly. I really, really dislike this mouse. And finally, the HP mouse also just has a terrible tracking sensor, so it's just a horrible mouse all around. Now I have the Lenovo mouse here. The Lenovo mouse feels much more comfortable than the HP one. It's actually quite unfair for it to go from the HP to this one, because anything will feel good compared to that. The sensor is less sensitive than the HP one, but you can clearly see the judders here. Like, you can see the mouse looking around movements aren't smooth. It's because the sensor doesn't track properly. Honestly, the only mouse in this roundup which the sensor can actually track decently is the MSI one. The rest of them have this stepped feel. Now finally, we're moving over to the Acer mouse, which is tiny. It's so little. And that tiny size mixed with the feet on the bottom, which are pretty much non-existent, means that it doesn't grip very nicely. And that mixed with the fact that the sensor on this mouse feels like it's on crack. It is super sensitive, and even when you drop the sensitivity in software, it doesn't track very well. It just feels unwieldy and terrible. I really hate this little mouse. Now let's finally get to the tier list bit of the tier list video, the whole reason we're all here.
Now I'm gonna get the obvious one out of the way first. We all know that the MSI set is just significantly better than the rest of them, so it's gonna go straight to S tier. It is the only set of peripherals here that I wouldn't actually mind using daily, even while not threatened at gunpoint, so that's pretty cool. And compared to the other e-waste peripherals, it could just as well have been hewn out of mithril by Tahitian virgins for Thor's gaming setup. Like, it's just so much better. It's so much better, in fact, that I'm not going to put anything in A tier because we need to differentiate them. In fact, I'm not even going to put anything in B tier so that we can just properly emphasize how much better it is than the rest of them. Now, when it comes to C tier, I'm going to start off by putting the Dell set here. As far as all of the OEM peripherals goes, I think the Dell set is definitely a bit better than them. There isn't a glaring issue with the ergonomics of the mouse or the sensor, and the keyboard isn't the worst either. So I think it's a solid C tier. Now, in terms of the iBuyPower peripheral set, I did toy with the idea of putting it in B tier because I feel like it's got more features than the Dell peripheral set. But there are a couple of things. That mouse, first off, is really terrible. And secondly, I feel like they just tried to hide a terrible OEM peripheral set in a stupid gamer aesthetic. So yeah, that just kind of annoys me. So just for that, we're gonna put it in C tier along with the Dell peripheral set. Next up, we're moving down to the D tier, which as we all know stands for dumbass tier, which is why I think the Lenovo set really deserves to be here considering that dumbass keyboard layout. I don't know why I hate it so much because it's not like it actually impacts the usability of the keyboard that much, but for some reason that irritates me, and the sensor in the mouse is a definite step down from the Dell mouse, even though the ergonomics in it isn't that bad. So I think that it makes a solid addition to the D tier. Next up, we're moving down to the E tier, which as we all know stands for the Ebola tier for peripherals that make you physically ill. Now, I'm definitely going to put the Acer setup here. Its keyboard offered one of the least pleasant typing experiences, and that matched with the tiny little cracked out mouse means that it's just a horrible experience using that setup. Which brings me to the final and probably my most disliked set of peripherals, which is from Acer. I mean HP. Now, I'm not quite sure if I want to just also put it in E tier or take it all the way down to F. Because as far as the keyboard goes, it's very similar to the one from Acer. But the mouse takes it one step further. It doesn't just disappear in your hand. Because of the sharp angles on it, it also tries to maim you permanently while using it. So I think because of that, we need to drop it all the way down to F tier. And that brings me to the end of an admittedly quite anemic tier list, but considering the fact that you have to buy an entire pre-built per set of e-waste peripherals, I feel like 6 is quite extensive actually, and you know, it's quite a broad spectrum of e-waste peripherals. If you liked the video, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. Let me know down in the comment section below if you agree with my tier list or if you're wrong, and yeah, until the next video, thank you for watching, bye bye.